All right, I think we're on a very tight schedule, so I have to immediately proceed with our next panel. I don't think we're going to have a lot of time for questions, maybe about a few minutes at the very end, but we're going to have networking break immediately after we finish, so we'll be able to answer some of our questions maybe individually after we finish our panel. So welcome to the Gambling Industry in 2020 panel. I'm very honored to be here in this marvelous city. Actually reminds me quite a lot of my hometown of Ljubljana, and a lot of people said the same when I was talking to them outside. Zlatan, thank you so much for organizing yet another great conference. It's also really nice to see a lot of familiar faces, also some distinguished members of our international members of Masters of Gaming Law, MGL Association as well, which always makes me a bit nervous when I'm hosting a panel because they're such great experts, all of them. The focus of our panel will therefore be on the future. Where is the gambling industry moving and why? Let me just start with some of the driving factors of the future of the gambling industry. I'll just list them in random form. Mobile platforms, virtual reality, big data, blockchain, artificial intelligence, cryptocurrencies, fintech, augmented reality, skill games, increased percentage of youth and female players, gamblers, and so on and so on. There is no doubt that traditional gambling and betting forms will remain, but will be largely affected by new forms of games of chance and games of skill. When we focus on the future, we can deny that large drivers behind the future developments will be virtual sports and eSports. In no other parts of the industry are the driving factors, which I mentioned before, more obvious and integrated as in virtual sports and eSports, and gambling products attached to them. That's going to be our focus in the next half an hour, so virtual sports and eSports. Before we start, let me just briefly introduce our distinguished panelists. Lyubomira Petrova from UltraPlay. Lyubomira is Chief Marketing Officer at UltraPlay and has been with the company for a few years now. Learning and experience is what eSports is all about, and she's going to share her experience on eSports with us today. She's leading UltraPlay's marketing team and uses her extensive knowledge and experience in communication to position and expand the company's brand and key messages to diverse audiences. Robert Toth from GlobalBet. Robert started in the iGaming industry more than 10 years ago. He joined GlobalBet in 2012, where he was responsible for high-profile customer accounts during a period of considerable business growth. Currently, he's managing the company's various aspects of business development, project coordination, and account management. Mr. Zlatan, last but not least, Mr. Zlatan Omerspahić, coming from NSoft. Zlatan has a very distinguished CV. I'm just going to tell a few things very shortly. He's a PhD in commercial law. He holds a PhD in commercial law, corporate governance, contract law, regulatory issues, and is currently serving the role of data protection officer, so-called DPO, at NSoft. Zlatan is going to be sharing his extensive knowledge and experience on the introduction of GDPR and the upcoming regulation of the European Union, which is called e-privacy regulation, which I'm pretty sure that most of you know or will know today, after today, will even more dramatically change the virtual world than GDPR did. So we're going to also talk about e-privacy a little bit in the next minutes. Zlatan has been shortlisted as the Global Regulatory Awards 2019 in the category DPO, Data Protection Officer, or Team of the Year. So welcome, guys. Thank you so much for being here with us. Lyubomira, let's get down to the point and start with the first question. League of Legends finals in China attracted 36 million viewers, 5 million more than NBA finals. So this is really an amazing growth of the industry and also the gambling product related there too. So how are esports and virtual sports driving the future of gambling? What's your opinion? How are they driving and how they will be driving that in the upcoming years?
Hello everyone, it is nice to be here. It is true that eSports turns out to be an exciting phenomenon for entertainment, and you are totally right with the numbers, as worldwide there are 400 million eSports enthusiasts and occasional viewers right now, and by 2021 they are going to expand even more. So the World Championship of League of Legends is one of the major tournaments in esports, attracting millions of fans worldwide, like more and more every year. So those major tournaments are gathering viewerships on the streaming platforms such as Twitch. For the average people, this is a new word, but it's actually, for the gamer, it's really big. This is bigger than YouTube right now, and it's the main streaming platform where those kind of tournaments are streamed and broadcasted. Actually, we witnessed this 5 years ago, and we wanted to provide to those broad audience a new way of betting entertainment, because you know that the next generation of bettors will be the millennials with their high net worth, and now they can spend it on different kinds of entertainment. They are willing to find new ways where they can actually use their knowledge and bet. That's how they usually bet right now and going to perform on the betting website. A few years ago, actually, esports betting was a niche gambling vertical, and not so much of the betting operators has esports on their website. But now, nearly all of the leading sports books and online casinos has some of esports betting options. Not all of them, not the broadest coverage. Some of them are offering the golden trio, the so-called golden trio, Counter-Strike, Global Offensive, League of Legends, and Dota 2. But many others are going into some niche tournaments and titles, of course, regarded to the regions. Some new titles and some sensational, actually, games like Fortnite and PUBG. Here is the thing that Fortnite, for example, most of you have probably heard of this game or played even on their mobile devices. But in terms of betting, this game is not very convenient to be offered. The three titles that are already mentioned, CSGO, Dota 2, and League of Legends, are responsible for the 60% of the betting volume, and live betting on them as well as in traditional sports.
All right, and I mean, it all started, or it's the biggest boom was obviously in the Asia Pacific area. How fast and how big is this in Europe now? How fast is it growing over here?
It is growing really fast because you are right that it started in Asia, in South Korea mostly, and the biggest tournaments are held there. Even the next edition of the, World Championship of Dota 2 will be held this year for the first time on the Chinese soil. But of course, Europe also is on the way of providing really professional tournaments, professional leagues, and ESL is one of them.
The first stadium just for esports will be in Europe when it opened this year in 2019, right?
Yeah, actually, this whole ecosystem started like 15 years ago. To be exact, CSGO was introduced 20 years ago, but actually on the competitive side of things, it's like growing in the past 15 years and recording a tremendous growth in the past 5. And I think betting has really significant role in this in the growing of the booming of the whole ecosystem.
Well, the big guys are stepping in. You mentioned that it was on the radar 5 years ago. 5 years ago, Amazon acquired Twitch.
Twitch, yes.
But when Amazon acquires Twitch, then of course that means a huge boom also for the big guys, for the big digital industry also. I mean, just to mention Red Bull, ESPN, Samsung, even Adidas, they're all stepping into the esports arena and kind of matching this with their presence in the traditional sports arena. So those big guys are coming in, but are the big guys from our industry also up to date with especially the ones in Europe, up to date with the fast developments in this field?
Yes, you're absolutely right by mentioning those big brands that are entering the sector. Not only their names, but also some celebrities, and this can make us assume that esports is going to become a mainstream with the following years. It's going to go beyond the hype and be a must for the online betting brands they are offering. Yeah, betting brands are leading the way actually, as I mentioned, because they are also sponsoring and endorsing some tournaments, some teams. They're helping the whole ecosystem to grow.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Lyubomira. Robert, you're one of the pioneers of virtual gaming development, have a really or truly in-depth knowledge of this field. So let me go straight to the point with you. And of course, we're interested mostly in the products we can offer in those fields, betting, gambling products. So where are the biggest markets for virtual sports right now? And what can we learn from your in-depth knowledge here? What can you tell is going to happen in 2020? Some insights, please.
Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you for the invitation and for organizing this great event. To answer your question, virtual sports is not just a niche product. I'm pretty sure everybody's quite familiar with virtual sports. It is a product that is very popular among young players, especially millennials, because they grew up with PlayStation, with Xbox, with playing these games, and this is their world, this is their normality. When it comes to emerging markets, I definitely have to say that in most of these markets, the number of millennials is quite high. I was just reading an article recently regarding Nigeria, where 60% of the inhabitants are millennials. And we're talking very big numbers here. We are in a country with 3 million people. Nigeria has 178 million. This is one country in Africa. So yeah, definitely Nigeria is a very interesting market, and the virtual sports are also extremely popular. From our experience and from our numbers, I can tell you that we have land-based operations where over 75% of sports betting revenues are generated by virtual sports, and this is in Nigeria. Obviously, when it comes to regulated markets, it's even more interesting. I can tell you a little bit about Italy. In Italy, in 2018, operators generated $1.48 billion. This number accounts to all revenues generated. 25% of this is virtual sports. So we're talking very big numbers, and it's definitely a huge market.
What are the growth rates actually in general? I mean, how fast is this growing? Just give us some sort of an idea.
Well, 5 years ago, I can tell you very honestly, not so many people knew about virtual sports, but today it's a product that cannot. Any operator should have virtual sports on the website or in their offering.
There's obviously a lot of regulatory issues or under-regulatory issues related to all those things we're talking about now, but we're going to come back to that. Zlatan, whenever we're going to the field of new technologies, big data, digital, internet, online, especially what we're talking about today, we cannot go or we cannot pass privacy issues, things that have been pretty hot in our industry also for the last year, as well as other industries. Now, you have developed or you're developing a very interesting product about face recognition. I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of issues that you have behind that. And can you explain a little bit more about that and the challenges you're basically facing in your company?
Oh, of course. First of all, I would like to say hello to everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here with you and to share our vision about the future of gambling industry. Besides the fact, as Colin said, that eSports and virtual sports are definitely a future in gambling, I need to emphasize that artificial intelligence is something what is a really hot topic nowadays.
And virtual reality.
Yes, and NSoft is trying to create a future. And the last 2 or 3 years, we developed software which will be used for face, gender, and age recognition. And the main purpose of that software is to improve security standards in all kind of industry, especially in gambling industry. We created that software based on our experience in gambling and what we learn in gambling industry. Definitely, we all know how responsible gambling is important for regulators, for betting companies, and we definitely with this software can prevent underage betting, because you will receive.
Are you working hand in hand with regulators when you're developing things? Are you working hand in hand, because law always goes slower than technology?
Yes.
That's a big problem. So are you working with them in Bosnia or in other markets, or how does this work?
Yeah, great question. Definitely, law is getting slowly. That the fact that our developers work on that software. Yes, we definitely have a multidisciplinary team in NSoft, which we have developers, we have a salesperson, and also we have data protection, legal, and compliance department and colleagues which also raise that question with potential clients and with potential regulatory body in such regulatory environment. So we can say that they accept very good, that they know that it would be very useful, especially for underage betting, for KYC, to improve KYC methods.
And data protection in general.
And data protection in general. But
Zlatan, sorry to interrupt you. The GDPR, at least because you're such an expert in that field, and we're all sort of dealing with it every day, did it affect the gaming industry in European Union, actually some EEA countries, and the ones that are working with European Union countries in the past year or not, as a positive or a negative trend? GDPR itself, and then I'll ask you a question about the cookies in the e-privacy, which will largely affect the way we do digital, communications and marketing. So first, the GDPR, just in a few sentences, positive, negative experience.
Well, it's very difficult to say that. I can say that the GDPR give us positive effects and give all negative effects. It depends from the question to questions. I generally say if we really read that in the way that we need to resolve some big questions, issues, and to protect our clients, not to earn money from consultants and so on, we can improve our standards, and GDPR can be very good.
Are operators moving out of European Union countries because they're bound to GDPR and they will be bound to e-privacy or not?
I think they're moving from the European.
Which is a bad thing for European.
Yeah, it's a bad thing for European, because they have a cost, they have a big compliance risk, especially you mentioned e-privacy law, which is well known as the cookie law. You will not be able to make a cookie on the website.
We'll see. There's two developments right now in the European Union in Brussels. This is going to Coreper 1, which is the permanent representative of the European Union in May. And there's two proposals on the table right now. One is that you'll be able to switch off all the cookies in the browser, which is a death sentence for a lot of digital marketing and digital related communication industries. And the second one is obviously that you will have to accept the cookies which are necessary, and the cookies which are not, you will be able to deny. However, in our industry, eSports, virtual sports, everything is online. those things are interconnected. So they might have a very big effect on our market. Whatever will now happen with the last proposal of the Romanian presidency is now putting it on the table, will largely affect also the industries we're talking about today. What is your opinion in a few sentences?
Definitely, we have two possible solutions. First one, I think it would be that we need to get the prior consent before we use the cookies, so it can be very effect on the marketing business. They need to change their business model. The more business get downside because of that fact. For example, if you are have a portal, your business can downside because you don't have the chance to track your.
We need to reshape the business models as far as I understand you. We need to start reading the draft e-privacy regulation today. It's published on the webpage of the European Commission, and it's not a bad thing to start actually reading it. Now, if I may go, because we only have 5 minutes left, I'm so sorry to be so jumpy and such short questions and answers, but we have a very short time limit. The legal challenges regarding regulators. I know there's quite a few regulators, or ex-regulators, or future regulators sitting in the audience today. Let me just list a few, and I'll ask you all for the comments from your industry or from your company perspective when we talk about esports and virtual sports. First of all, there is no regulatory center in anywhere, basically. So each company, which is a software provider, makes its own rules. So we have company regulators who are, basically making rules. There's a few organizations, I know they are, but they're not so strong, and they're basically self-regulatory bodies. So this is, and then we have the questions deriving out of that, which is integrity, match fixing, even doping, which is horrible, but even that happens in sports. Then we have every single challenge we have in normal sports, which is player contracts, exploiting players, sponsorships, all those things coming from UEFA and FIFA are flooding into esports worlds, aren't they, Lyubomira? And of course, last but not least, intellectual property issues. Now, the owners of the software usually don't give you a license to play esports in huge tournaments because you bought a license for your own home computer, and then you're streaming this on YouTube, which is a huge violation it can be a huge violation of intellectual property. And here we come to this great directive called the Copyright Directive of the European Union, which we all know about, the famous Articles 11 and 13, which are now renumbered as 15 and 17, I think, where one of them is dealing with YouTube, dealing with streaming, dealing with copyrighted materials, whereas you will have to have a filter to block such things if you don't have copyrights. I mean, those are huge issues which could stop the development of esports, virtual sports, and all the things we're talking about today. So a brief comment, really brief comment on those regulatory challenges we have in this so-called future of the betting industry, which is tomorrow, okay? Vilnius, let's start with you.
That's true that there are many issues in esports like in traditional sports, and there's a new gambling vertical always happening right now, and we learn also from the mistakes or from some use cases that we witnessed throughout the years. But I would like to point out that many people and the next generation of players will use this kind of entertainment, so that all that organizations, providers, operators need to cooperate, and that's what we are doing in our work on a daily basis. There were, of course, match fixing problems, some tournaments that were not operated professionally and on the principles of betting, and we report those issues to the eSports Integrity Commission. We cooperate with them, but of course everyone in this very specific gambling sector needs to take the job seriously and report those kind of issues.
Robert, I'll let you comment on that more from the perspective regarding technologies in gaming. We discussed this before, so where are we going to go what do you think is going to be the ones that I listed before? Which ones are going to shape not only this field but gaming in general? This is sort of a closing question in 2020-21.
Well, technology is definitely at the forefront of iGaming, and operators and providers need to use all technologies to the max, because this is what enables them to capture the new generation of players. There are so many new technologies that are already in use, but maybe companies didn't quite understand the potential of these technologies. I'm talking about virtual reality now. Virtual reality is not a new thing. I think everybody heard about it. Currently, there are also some casinos that you can basically enter in with your virtual reality headset, and you can have a normal casino experience in the comfort of your home, sitting in your bed or in your comfortable couch. These devices costed over 1,000 euros a couple of years ago. Today you can buy a device for $200, $250, and you can enter this virtual reality world. I see that in the future, virtual reality will definitely be a very, very hot topic, as it enables this comfort, and you can basically travel anywhere in the world in any casino and play your favorite games.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry. Thank you so much. Zlatan, last but not least, we have one more minute, so I'm going to... Virtual reality, Robert mentioned, and we were talking about artificial intelligence. Now, can you wrap up our panel with what's that going to happen, or what's that going to do for us in 2020, 21, and beyond?
I definitely agree with colleagues with open questions about eSports and virtual sports. Regarding artificial intelligence, the European Council published a recommendation related to artificial intelligence by the end of January 2019, and they said that artificial intelligence is not illegal, but you need to improve your software, which collects biometric data. You need to improve your internal policy. You need to be transparent to the clients, what kind of data, for which purpose you collected that data, or who has access of the personal data, and so on. So that if a company make that standards, I can say that artificial intelligence can be used on the appropriate way and not to violate any of the human rights, special right to privacy.
Right, you're working on that already, right?
Yes, definitely.
All right. Guys, thank you so very much. Zoltan, I promise we're going to be on minute, so we are on minute. It's a coffee break network session now for 20 minutes outside. Thank you so much. An applause for our panelists, please. And I will answer some questions outside if there's any questions from the audience. Thank you so much. We were very impressed.
Yeah.
It has to be done.